Food truck woman ignores a man until he whispers, "I told you I'd find you." Emily Parker barely looked up when she saw that man approach her food truck counter for the third time that week. Her hands kept slicing tomatoes for the sauce, completely ignoring his presence until a hoarse voice whispered words that made her world stop. "I told you I'd find you, Emily." The knife slipped from her hands, falling with a dull thud onto the cutting board. 15 years. 15 long years since she'd last heard those same words, spoken by a 12-year-old boy, on the day she was taken from the Holy Cross orphanage. She slowly raised her eyes, and it was as if time had turned back. There was Nathan, the boy who shared pieces of bread with her when food was scarce, who held her hand through the bars separating the boys' dormitory from the girls'. But the years had turned that skinny boy into a tall man, with stubble and eyes even sadder than she remembered. "You need to leave," said Emily, her voice coming out harsher than intended. She bent down to pick up the knife, her hands shaking. "Emily, please, I've looked for you for so long." "I told you to leave," she shouted, making some customers turn to look. Mrs. Jenkins, a 70-year-old lady who had lunch at the food truck every day for 3 years, dropped her fork onto her plate of mac and cheese. "Dear, are you all right? I've never seen you so upset." Emily forced a smile, still not looking at Nathan. "It's all right, Mrs. Jenkins, it's just a misunderstanding." Nathan remained still, his hands resting on the counter. He wore a faded green shirt and worn jeans, like someone who works hard to make a living. His eyes didn't leave Emily's face, as if he were memorizing every detail. "I'm not giving up, Emily. I promised I'd find you, and I kept my word." She finally faced him, and it was a mistake. In his eyes she saw all the determination of the boy she'd known, but also a deep sadness that made her chest tighten. "Some promises shouldn't be kept," she murmured, going back to slicing the tomatoes with more force than necessary. Nathan stayed there for a few more minutes, just watching. Emily felt the weight of his gaze, the memory of all the whispered conversations at the orphanage, all the plans they'd made together. When he finally walked away, she let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Mrs. Jenkins approached the counter when it was time to pay. "Who was that young man, Emily? It seemed like you knew each other." "No one important," lied Emily, avoiding the curious eyes of the older woman. For someone who's not important, he sure shook you up." Emily didn't answer, just handed over the change and turned to clean the already spotless counter. The next day, Nathan showed up again. This time, he had something in his hands, an old photo yellowed with time. Emily tried to ignore him, but he placed the photo on the counter and walked away without a word. It was a photo from the Holy Cross orphanage, taken during a Christmas party. Emily immediately recognized the 2 children in the corner of the picture, herself at 10 years old and Nathan holding her hand. Both were smiling for the camera, but Emily remembered they were actually sad because they knew it would be one of their last Christmases together. She picked up the photo with trembling hands and quickly tucked it into her apron pocket, hoping no one had seen. But Tyler, the helper who'd worked with her for 2 years, noticed everything. "Boss, do you really know that guy?" asked Tyler while washing dishes. "Knew," corrected Emily. "A long time ago. He seems like a good guy, and it's clear he's very fond of you." Emily stopped seasoning the meat and looked at Tyler with irritation. "None of your business, Tyler. Sorry, boss, it's just you seem different when he shows up. More, I don't know, more alive." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. That night, Emily called Diane, the woman who had adopted her when she was 11. It was a conversation she had avoided for years, but she needed answers. "Mom, Diane, I need to know about before the adoption." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Why do you want to know about that now, dear?" "Please, Mom, it's important." Diane sighed. "Emily, when I adopted you, there was a boy at the orphanage who cried for days. Sister Ruth said you two were very attached. I even thought about adopting both of you, but I was too young, I couldn't afford it." Emily's legs gave way, and she had to sit down on the bed in her small apartment in Manhattan Beach. What did he look like? Dark hair, green eyes, always very protective of you. Sister Ruth said he even ran away from the orphanage twice trying to find you after you left. Emily hung up the phone and cried for the first time in years. The tears were filled with a guilt she didn't know she carried, and a longing she had tried to bury for 15 years. On the third day, Nathan didn't show up. Emily found herself looking down the street several times, hoping to see him. When Tyler commented that business was slower, she replied with more irritation than the situation warranted. "Where's that young man who used to come here?" asked Mrs. Jenkins at lunchtime. "What young man?" Emily pretended. "Oh, the one who turned you upside down. Nice-looking, friendly young man." "I don't know and I don't care." Mrs. Jenkins studied her with those clever eyes of someone who has seen a lot in life. "You know, Emily, I'm 73 years old. I've seen a lot of people let love slip away because of pride. I don't recommend it. It's not love, Mrs. Jenkins, it's complicated. It always is, dear, it always is." On Thursday, Nathan reappeared, but he didn't approach the food truck. He sat on a bench in the square, from where he could see Emily working. He stayed there for 2 hours just watching. Emily could feel the weight of his gaze and found herself messing up orders, burning the garlic, spilling spices. "Boss, you want me to ask him to leave?" Tyler offered. "No." The answer came out faster than Emily intended. "I mean, leave him be. He's not bothering anyone." Nathan came back the next day, and the day after that, always sitting on the same bench, always watching. Emily began to get used to his presence, even to rely on it. When he didn't show up at the usual time, she felt strangely empty. It was Mrs. Jenkins who broke the ice. "Young man," she shouted to Nathan on a busy Friday. "Come here and help an old lady." Nathan approached immediately. "How can I help you?" "This stubborn girl won't admit it, but she needs help. Could you carry some boxes for her?" Emily was red with embarrassment. "Mrs. Jenkins, please." "Don't argue with me, Emily. This boy has been over there for a week stewing. Put him to work." Nathan looked at Emily, waiting for a response. She avoided his eyes but nodded. For 2 hours, Nathan helped carry supplies, clean tables, and serve customers. He worked in silence, but Emily noticed he watched her every move, as if he was trying to memorize everything. "Did you always want to have a food truck?" he asked when they were finally alone, Tyler having gone to get more propane. Emily stopped wiping the counter. "Why do you want to know?" "Because I remember you always talked about cooking for people. At the orphanage you said when you grew up you'd have a restaurant where no one would go hungry." The memory hit her like a punch. She really used to say that on the nights they talked through the fence. "Things have changed," she said, her voice cold. "Have you changed?" Emily looked at him properly for the first time since he had reappeared. She saw on his face the marks of a life that hadn't been easy, but also the same kindness that had won her over when they were children. "Everybody changes, Nathan." "Is your name still Emily Parker?" The question caught her off guard. "How did you—" "I spent 15 years looking for Emily Parker. I figured you might have changed your name when you were adopted." Emily felt a chill. "How did you find me?" Nathan pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket. "Phone book, social media, public records. I visited 17 different towns. You were the 32nd Emily Parker I found." The impact of his words made Emily lean on the counter. You visited 17 towns. I promised I would find you, Emily. A man doesn't break a promise like that." Tyler came back at that moment with the gas tank, interrupting the conversation. Nathan helped install the equipment and said goodbye without saying when he would return. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She stayed on the balcony of her apartment, looking at the city lights and thinking about Nathan's words. 17 towns, 15 years, 32nd Emily Parker. On Saturday, Nathan didn't show up, not on Sunday either. Emily found herself looking for him every moment, feeling a growing anxiety she couldn't explain. On Monday, it was a middle-aged woman, very elegant, whom Emily didn't recognize right away. "Emily? Emily Parker?" "Yes, that's me." "My name is Sister Agnes. I worked at the Holy Cross Orphanage 20 years ago. Emily's blood ran cold. "What do you want?" "A young man named Nathan Collins was there last week asking questions about you. And about other things." Emily dropped what she was doing. "What other things?" "About the records, about the adoptions, about, well, about the truth you never knew." "What truth?" Emily's voice came out as a whisper. Sister Agnes looked around, seeing the customers eating lunch. "This isn't a conversation to have here. Can you close early today?" Emily looked at Tyler, who nodded, understanding something serious was happening. "Tyler, close up for me. I'll be back soon." The two women walked to a small nearby square. Sister Agnes seemed nervous, like someone carrying a heavy secret for a long time. "Emily, do you remember your first days at the orphanage?" "I remember arriving when I was 3. I don't remember before that." "And Nathan? Do you remember when he arrived?" Emily thought for a moment. "He was always there, since my earliest memories." "You arrived on the same day, Emily, in the same car. 2 children found abandoned on the steps of a church in Camden." Emily's world began to spin. "What are you saying?" "The records were altered. At the time, it was easier to get children adopted if they seemed to have no family ties. But you two, you had a very strong bond. You cried when you were separated. You constantly looked for each other." "Go on," Emily managed to speak, though her voice came out shaky. "A social worker suggested you might be siblings, but we weren't sure and, well, it was harder to find families willing to adopt 2 siblings. Emily stood up abruptly from the bench. "You separated us thinking we were siblings?" "Emily, please understand. It was a different time. We did what we thought was best." "Best for who?" Emily shouted, making people in the square look. "For you, who didn't want to deal with the difficulty? For the families, who only wanted 1 child? For us, who lost each other?" Sister Agnes lowered her head. "I know there's no excuse. That's why I came to tell the truth now. Nathan deserves to know, and so do you." Emily felt her legs go weak. 15 years thinking Nathan was just a special childhood friend. 15 years trying to forget the feeling that she had lost a part of herself when she was adopted. Where are the original records?" "They were destroyed in a fire 10 years ago. But I remember, and there's someone who can confirm." "Who?" "The driver who took you to the orphanage. Mr. Wilson still lives in Newark. He was the one who found you at the church." Emily needed to lean on something. The revelation was too much to process. "Does Nathan know about this?" "He suspects. That's why he's been looking for you for so long. Deep down, you both always knew there was something more." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Emily went home in a state of shock. She called Diane immediately. "Mom, did you know?" "Know what, honey?" "That Nathan and that we might be siblings?" The silence on the other end was eloquent. "Mom, answer me. Emily, there were rumors, but we weren't sure. And I was already so in love with you, I didn't want to risk..." "Risk what?" "That you would want to look for him. That you would leave me to be with your biological family." Emily hung up the phone and cried like she hadn't cried since she was a child. She wasn't crying from sadness, but from a complex mix of anger, relief, and hope. On Tuesday, Nathan showed up at the food truck as if nothing had happened. Emily was waiting for him. "We need to talk," she said before he even reached the counter. "I know. Sister Agnes came to see me. I thought she might." They looked at each other for a long moment. Emily saw in his eyes that he already knew, perhaps had known for a long time. "Why did you never say anything?" she asked. "Because I wasn't sure, and because I was afraid you wouldn't want it to be true. And if it is true, if we really are siblings..." Nathan took a step closer to the counter. "Then it means I spent 15 years looking for the most important person in my life, and that I finally found her." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes, but she held them back. "I need to be sure. We need to be sure." "I know where we can find out," said Nathan. "Mr. Wilson, the driver. Sister Agnes gave me his address." Emily looked around. The food truck was full of lunch customers, but none of that seemed important now. Tyler, she called, can you handle everything on your own this afternoon? Of course, boss. Is something wrong? I need to take care of something important. Nathan waited for her to grab her purse and lock up the cash. They walked together to the bus stop, the first time in 15 years they were truly together. The trip to Camden took almost 2 hours. During the ride they spoke little, but Emily felt that every mile brought them closer not only to their destination, but to the truth about who they really were. Mr. Wilson lived in a simple house, in the same neighborhood where the church they were found in was located. When he opened the door and saw the two of them, his eyes filled with tears. My God, it's you, the babies from Grace Church. Babies? Asked Emily. We were 3 years old when we arrived at the orphanage. Mr. Wilson shook his head. No, miss. You were 1.5 years at most, so tiny, holding on to each other. The little girl wouldn't stop crying when they tried to separate her from the boy. Emily felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Are you sure? Absolutely sure. I was the one who drove you to Holy Cross. 40 years driving for the orphanage, but I never forgot that day. You were siblings without a doubt. Nathan took Emily's hand, and it was as if a missing piece had finally clicked into place. How do you know? Asked Nathan. Because when they tried to separate you two at the orphanage, you both got sick, high fever, wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep. Sister Ruth had to put you in the same crib to get you better. Emily was trembling. All the fragmented childhood memories started making sense. The constant feeling that someone was missing, the nightmares where she searched for someone she couldn't find, the unexplainable connection she felt with Nathan even after all this time. Why did they separate us then? She asked. Mr. Wilson sighed. Because a family showed up wanting to adopt just one child. A good family, with the means to provide an education, a future. The administration thought it was best for you. Best for who? Nathan murmured, echoing Emily's words. They left Mr. Wilson's house in silence. On the way back to downtown New York, they sat together on the bus, their hands still intertwined. Emily felt like her whole life had been a lie, but at the same time, for the first time in years, she felt complete. What do we do now? She asked as the bus entered the city. Now we make up for lost time, Nathan replied. How? By being siblings, by being family. Emily started to cry, but they were tears of relief. All the anger she had felt about Nathan reappearing in her life had turned into gratitude. He hadn't given up. He had kept his promise. When they got back to the food truck, Tyler was closing up. How did it go, boss? Emily looked at Nathan and smiled for the first time since he had reappeared. Tyler, I want you to meet my brother, Nathan. Tyler's eyes went wide. Brother? For real? For real? Nathan confirmed, extending his hand. That night, Emily and Nathan went to her apartment. It was small but cozy. They sat on the porch with coffee and talked until dawn, filling in the gaps of 15 years. Nathan told her about his life after she was adopted, the temporary homes, the constant feeling of abandonment, the decision to become a social worker to help other separated families. I've helped dozens of families reunite, he said, always thinking that one day it would be our turn. Emily told him about her life with Diane, about how she always felt grateful but incomplete, about the decision to open the food truck to fulfill her dream of feeding people. You know what amazes me the most, Emily said as the sun began to rise. What? That we became exactly what we dreamed of when we were kids. You help families, I feed people. Even separated, we followed the same values. It's because we're siblings, Nathan said with a smile. Some things never change. In the days that followed, Emily's life was completely transformed. Nathan started helping at the food truck during his free time. Mrs. Jenkins was overjoyed when she learned the truth. I knew it, she said, clapping her hands. A 73-year-old woman knows true love when she sees it. Family love is the strongest of all. Diane, at first, was worried about Nathan's arrival, but when she met him in person, she fell in love with him as if he were her own son. Now I understand why you always had that emptiness in your eyes, she told Emily. You were missing him. You're not jealous? Jealous? Emily, I always wanted more children. Now I have 2. Nathan moved into an apartment near Emily's. Every morning he arrived early to help prepare the food truck. They worked in perfect sync, as if they had been doing it their whole lives. The regular customers noticed the change. Emily smiled more, talked more, seemed lighter. The food truck prospered like never before. "You two together are magic," a regular customer commented. "The food is even better." "It's because now we cook with complete love," Emily replied, looking at Nathan. 3 months after reuniting, they made an important decision. "I want to expand the business," said Emily. "Turn this into a real restaurant." "I'll help you," offered Nathan immediately. "I have some savings put aside." "No, Nathan, I want it to be ours. Partners, siblings, family." They found a perfect spot in Manhattan Beach near the ocean, a small space but with potential. For 2 months they worked together on the renovation, painting walls, choosing furniture, creating the menu. The restaurant was named Heart and Soul, a tribute to the bond that was never lost even during the years of separation. The opening was emotional. Diane cut the red ribbon, sniffling with pride. Mrs. Jenkins was the first official customer. Tyler became the assistant chef. "I never thought my life could feel so complete," Emily said to Nathan on the first night, as they counted the money from the register. "I always believed it would be," he replied. "I just didn't know how." The restaurant prospered quickly. The food was good, but what attracted people was the atmosphere of love and warmth that Emily and Nathan created together. Customers came not just to eat, but to feel like part of a family. 6 months after the opening, they received an unexpected visit. Sister Agnes appeared at the restaurant, as nervous as the first time. "I have a proposal for you," she said. "What kind of proposal?" asked Emily, still wary. "The Holy Cross Orphanage is undergoing renovations. We want to create a program to reunite separated families. Would you like to help?" Emily and Nathan looked at each other. "How?" "Talks for the children, showing them it's worth not giving up hope. That family is stronger than any separation." Emily felt a tightness in her chest. The idea of going back to the orphanage stirred something in her, but it also made sense. "What do you think?" she asked Nathan. "I think it's our chance to turn our pain into something useful." They accepted. Once a month they visited the Holy Cross Orphanage, now renovated and modern. They talked with the children, told their story, taught them that family isn't just about blood, but also about choice and love. The first visit was difficult. Being in those hallways brought back all the memories, good and bad. But when they saw the hopeful eyes of the children, they knew they were doing the right thing. "Do you believe you will find each other again?" asked an 8-year-old girl. "We found each other," replied Emily. "And if we managed it after 15 years, you can too." The story of Emily and Nathan began to spread. Local newspapers did stories about the restaurant of the siblings who had reunited. TV shows invited them to tell their story. "We don't want to be famous," Nathan said to Emily after turning down another TV invitation. "We just want to live our lives in peace." "I agree. Our story is ours, not everyone's." Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. 1 year after the reunion, they decided to take a trip together to Camden. They wanted to visit Grace Church, where it had all begun. The church was small and simple but well kept. The current priest, a young man, received them with curiosity when they told their story. "You're the babies who were found here over 20 years ago?" he asked, impressed. "Yes," confirmed Nathan. "We want to see where it all started." The priest took them to the back of the church, where there was a small garden. "This is where you were found. According to the records, it was raining heavily that night. You were in a basket covered with a blue blanket, hugging each other." Emily felt a shiver. Imagine her and Nathan as babies, abandoned but together, protecting each other even when they were so small. "Does anyone know who left us here?" she asked. "No, we never found out. But whoever it was, they took care to leave you in a place where they knew you'd be found and taken care of." They stayed quiet for a while in the garden, each lost in their own thoughts. Emily wondered about her birth parents, but realized her curiosity wasn't accompanied by any bitterness. She had Nathan. She had Diane. She had a full life. "Do you ever wish you knew who our parents were?" she asked Nathan. "Sometimes I think about it," he replied, "but I think what matters isn't where we came from but where we ended up. We ended up with each other." "Exactly." On the way back to New York, they stopped at the cemetery where Sister Ruth, the nun who took care of them at the orphanage, was buried. She had passed a few years ago, but Sister Agnes said she never forgot the inseparable little siblings. "Thank you for taking care of us," Emily whispered to the simple headstone. "And thank you for trying to keep us together, even when you couldn't," Nathan added. The restaurant continued to thrive. Emily and Nathan hired more staff and started offering free meals for the homeless every Friday. "It's our way of giving back," Emily explained to the new employees. "We know what it's like to be in need, what it's like to have no family. We don't want anyone to leave here hungry." The initiative caught the attention of other organizations. Soon, Heart and Soul became a support center for various social outreach programs in the area. Mrs. Jenkins, now 74, was still a daily customer. She had become like a grandmother to Emily and Nathan. "You two give me faith in humanity," she said one afternoon while having her coffee after lunch. "Why, Mrs. Jenkins?" "Because you've proven that true love always finds a way. No matter how much time passes, no matter how many obstacles there are, the love of family always wins." On the second anniversary of their reunion, Emily and Nathan threw a party at the restaurant. They invited all their friends, regular customers and employees. Diane made a special cake with a picture of the two of them at the orphanage. "I want to make a toast," said Nathan, raising his glass of soda. "To what?" asked Emily. "To a promise kept, to the family that was never lost even when we thought it was, and to the future we're going to build together." Everyone applauded. Emily felt a deep emotion seeing all those people gathered together. The small apartment had turned into a thriving restaurant. The loneliness had turned into family. The emptiness had turned into wholeness. That night, after everyone had left, Emily and Nathan were alone in the restaurant, doing the final cleanup. "You know what amazes me the most about our story?" said Emily while putting the chairs away. "What?" "That you never gave up. 15 years, Nathan. 15 years of searching. How could I give up? You are the most important person in my life, even without knowing if we were really siblings. Even then, some connections go beyond blood, Emily. We are family by choice, not just by an accident of birth." Emily stopped what she was doing and hugged her brother. "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for letting yourself be found." A few months later, they got an unexpected phone call. It was a woman named Susan, a social worker from Washington, D.C. "Are you Emily and Nathan, the siblings who were reunited?" "Yes," replied Emily, intrigued. "I have a situation here that you might be able to help with. 2 sisters, separated for 10 years. One of them saw the news story about you and wants to try to find the other, but doesn't know how." Emily looked at Nathan, who nodded encouragingly. "How can we help?" "Could you talk to her? Give some guidance. She's losing hope." They immediately agreed. The following weekend, they traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet Amber, a 22-year-old young woman who was searching for her sister, Rebecca. "I thought it was impossible," said Amber, crying as she told her story. "But after I saw you on TV, I thought maybe—" "It's never impossible," said Nathan. "Difficult, yes, painful sometimes, but impossible, never." They helped Amber organize the search, taught techniques Nathan had learned over the years, connected her with other social workers. 3 months later, they received an ecstatic call. Amber had found Rebecca. "It was because of you," Amber shouted on the phone. "If you hadn't given me hope, I would have given up." This was the first of many families that Emily and Nathan helped reunite. Without realizing it, they had become a reference for people searching for lost relatives. "I think we found our purpose," said Emily one night, after receiving another call from someone asking for help. "What?" "To prove that family is never completely lost, that there's always hope." The 3rd anniversary of their reunion was celebrated in a special way. They organized a gathering at the restaurant for all the families they had helped reunite. It was moving to see the room full of people hugging, crying with happiness, telling their stories. "You can't imagine what you've done for us," said a 60-year-old man who had reunited with his son after 30 years of separation. You gave me back my family. We just showed that it's worth not giving up, replied Emily. The credit is yours for having the courage to search. Diane, now 72 years old, watched everything with maternal pride. My daughter has become a kind of guardian angel for families, she commented to Mrs. Jenkins. She always was, wasn't she? Replied Mrs. Jenkins. She just needed to find her own guardian angel first. That night, Emily and Nathan decided to do something they had been putting off for a long time. Look for information about their biological parents. Are you sure? Asked Nathan. I am. Not to judge them or demand explanations, but to understand our complete story. They hired a private investigator, specialized in family reunification. The man was honest from the start. After more than 20 years with burned records, the chances are small, but not impossible. The investigation lasted 6 months. Emily and Nathan continued their lives normally, working at the restaurant, helping other families, but always with that expectation in the back of their hearts. The phone call came on a rainy Tuesday. I found something, said the investigator. It's not our parents, but, well, it's better if you come here. In the investigator's office, they found a folder with old documents. I managed to trace the origin of the blanket you were found in, he explained. It was from a hospital in Yonkers. With that information, I found birth records. Emily held Nathan's hand. And? Your parents were very young, 18 and 16 years old, unmarried. Your mother was also an orphan, with no family to help. What were their names? Asked Nathan. Brian Miller and Jennifer Wright. But I have bad news. Brian passed away a few years ago. Cancer. Emily felt a tightness in her chest. Even without knowing him, he was her father. And our mother. Jennifer is still alive. She lives in Queens. She never married, had no other children, works as a cleaner. The silence in the office was heavy. Does she know we're alive? Asked Emily. I don't know, but I can investigate if you want. Emily and Nathan looked at each other. It was a lot of information to process. Can we think about it? Asked Nathan. Of course, but if you decide to look for her, do it soon. She's 58 years old now, and from the investigation I did, life hasn't been easy for her. They left the office in silence. They went to the restaurant, but neither of them could focus on work. What do you think? Emily finally asked. I'm confused, Nathan admitted. Part of me wants to meet her. Another part is scared. Scared of what? That she doesn't want to see us. That she's forgotten about us. That she regrets abandoning us. Emily understood perfectly. That was exactly how she felt. What if she doesn't know we're alive? Said Emily. What if she spent all these years suffering, thinking she lost us forever? Then we owe it to her to give her that joy. What if she doesn't want to see us? Then at least we'll know we tried. They decided to look for Jennifer. The investigator got the address, a simple housing complex in Queens. Emily and Nathan made the trip on a Saturday morning, more nervous than they had ever been. The house was small, well kept, with a garden of plants out front. Emily rang the doorbell with trembling hands. A woman with greying hair opened the door. Short, thin, with tired but kind eyes. When she saw Emily and Nathan, her face turned pale. My God, she whispered. Are you Jennifer Wright? Asked Nathan. Jennifer didn't answer. She just looked at them with an expression of shock and recognition. You are my children. It wasn't a question. It was a statement filled with 20 years of longing. We are, confirmed Emily, her voice choked up. Jennifer broke down in tears. Emily and Nathan looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Finally, Emily stepped forward and hugged the woman who had given birth to them. I thought you had... that something bad had happened, sobbed Jennifer. I looked so hard. You looked for us? Asked Nathan, surprised. Every day for years. I went to every orphanage in New York, in Hoboken, in Camden. No one knew about you. I thought... She couldn't finish the sentence. They went into the simple but clean house. On the walls, Emily noticed several baby photos. Them, taken at the hospital before the abandonment. "You kept our photos?" asked Emily, moved. "They were all I had of you. I've looked at them every day for 20 years. Jennifer told her story. She had been abandoned by her own parents when she was 15. She met Brian at a youth shelter. When they found out about the pregnancy, they tried to stay together, but they were too young and had no support. "We had no way to raise you," she explained through tears. "Brian worked at a market, earned very little. I couldn't get a job because I had no education. We were starving." "Why didn't you give us up for adoption directly?" asked Nathan. "Because we didn't know how. We were ignorant, with no one to guide us. We thought leaving you at the church would be safer, that some good person would find you and take good care of you." Emily felt her heart break. Jennifer hadn't abandoned them out of a lack of love, but out of desperation. "And then?" asked Emily. "Brian became desperate. He started drinking, got mixed up with the wrong crowd, trying to make quick money. He died at 23. I never forgave myself, not for leaving you, and not for not saving him." The three of them cried together in the small living room. Emily understood that Jennifer had been more of a victim than a villain in that story. "Do you want to be our mother now?" asked Emily hesitantly. Jennifer smiled through her tears. "My dear, I never stopped being your mother. I just wasn't present. But if you'll let me, I want to make up for lost time." Nathan stood up and hugged Jennifer. "We have two mothers now," he said. "Diane, who raised us, and you, who gave us life." "And both are important," added Emily. Jennifer wanted to know everything about their lives. Emily and Nathan shared about the orphanage, about being adopted separately, about the 15 years apart, about their reunion, about the restaurant. "You both turned out to be such good people," said Jennifer with pride. "You succeeded where I failed." "You didn't fail," said Emily. "You did what you could, with what you had. And look how we turned out, together, happy, with a big family full of love." Jennifer agreed to meet Diane. The meeting was emotional. Two mothers who loved the same children, united by gratitude and affection. "Thank you for taking care of them when I couldn't," Jennifer said to Diane. "Thank you for giving me the children I couldn't have," Diane replied. Jennifer moved into an apartment near the restaurant. Emily and Nathan helped her move, bought new furniture, and included her in their daily lives. At the restaurant, Jennifer helped in the kitchen when she could. Mrs. Jenkins was delighted with her. "Now I understand where Emily got that special way of cooking," the lady commented. "It runs in the family." 4 years after the siblings' reunion, the family was complete. Emily and Nathan, Diane and Jennifer, Mrs. Jenkins as the adoptive grandmother, Tyler and all the staff as extended family. The Heart and Soul restaurant had become more than a business. It was a meeting point, a place where families gathered, where lonely people found a welcoming space, where love was served alongside the food. One particularly busy afternoon, Emily stopped for a moment to observe the scene. Nathan cheerfully running the kitchen, Jennifer preparing desserts, Diane chatting with customers, Mrs. Jenkins at her usual table, families they had helped reuniting, laughing and hugging. "Satisfied?" asked Nathan, noticing his sister's thoughtful gaze. "Complete," replied Emily. "For the first time in my life, I feel completely whole." Who would have thought that promise whispered between orphanage bars would become all this? Did you know it would become this? I believed it would become this. There's a difference. Emily hugged her brother, feeling a deep gratitude that he had never given up searching for her, for turning a painful separation into an even more painful reunion. Painful, with so much emotion and joy. "Nathan." "Yes?" "Thank you for keeping your promise. Thank you for making it worth keeping." End of story. Tell us what you thought of Emily and Nathan's story. Have you ever experienced a difficult family separation? How was your reunion? Leave your opinion in the comments and share your own family experiences with us. We want to know if the story touched your heart the same way it touched ours. Thank you so much for your company up to this point. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.